Hi and welcome to Skin Deep, the first podcast from Esh. I am Chinmay Manjunath, editor, general content person at Esh, and the host of this podcast. Skin Deep is a conversation about beauty, but it is also a conversation about so much more. Our ideas of beauty are shaped by memory, people, experiences, the stories of our lives. Twice a month, I speak to an interesting person doing interesting things. I ask them about skincare and makeup tricks, and if they are that rare person who loves the natural texture of their hair. Along the way, I try to understand what drives them to seek and create beauty in their homes, their lives, and their work, and what makes them beautiful to themselves. Join me each fortnight on Skin Deep as we explore what beauty means to each one of us. I am so thrilled to launch Skin Deep in conversation with Kresha Bajaj. She's a fashion designer, she's a sensation on Instagram, and she is just someone who really brings beauty into every aspect of her life. I have known Kresha a few years now, and what I admire about her is that everything she does comes from an authentic, intentional place. She has a covetable aesthetic, she brings a sense of order to her world, and spreadsheets are her secret weapon. Kresha and I met at her home, and with her adorable little dog Kimchi for company, we spoke about beauty, confidence, and femininity. Here's Kresha Bajaj. So do you have like a vivid first memory of something beauty related?
I think my memory of beauty just in general might not necessarily be an application or a product, but it's my grandmother, my nanny. And she just had this way of clipping her hair. She had a vertical clip and she had this jet black hair and she would use this very, like ancient style to the comb to put it up, and then she would clip it vertical. So her hair would be up, but then it would be this vertical fountain. And I think just the process of her doing it with ease was my first memory, seeing her sit on her beautiful, dressing table and just doing this.
And dressing tables were such a part of a woman's life. And I think that's something that sort of
stayed constant,
but also in modern homes kind of disappears. And what was the first moment you remember trying on a beauty ritual or product or something that makes you think, okay, this is something that can transform how you look or feel?
You're going to think I'm crazy.
No.
But I think the first thing I tried, which in my eyes was a form of grooming myself, was I took my father's shaver and I shaved off my mustache. And
I love that.
Growing up at that certain age where you start getting a little bit of facial hair, and then suddenly your face is one color, and then your upper lip is slightly darker because of that baby hair. And I guess that's how my family was used to seeing me and used to me growing up. But when my parents were out of town, I kind of went into his space and took out his shaver and shaved it off. And I remember like my grandparents and my aunts and uncles seeing me and just being, what have you done? Like, why do you look so different? And I was so embarrassed because when it started growing back, it was even worse.
Oh no.
So I started like threading my upper lip really early.
You're someone that is very aesthetically driven. You always look for beauty in the world around you. You're creating beauty. At what point did that start for you? Or were you always like that?
I think in terms of my aesthetic, it started with being extremely organized. And I got that from my dad. Like if you opened his sock drawer, even if they were, all black socks, they would still be in a gradient organized.
Wow.
And there was so much beauty in seeing, when something is organized, it just looks so much nicer. So I became kind of like an organizational freak.
Yeah.
And then it was not just about being organized, it was about beautifying what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started. But beauty products or makeup, my first foray into that was, for the longest time, I went through a goth phase.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love you to talk about that because I find that really interesting.
So I was always petite.
Yeah.
And I always had this voice, which is kind of high-pitched and a little squeaky. And people never used to take me seriously. I was like the short one in class. So when I would try and get my point across, I would feel like the little one jumping to be like, hey, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just need to kind of, it was me being rebellious, I guess. And eventually that just led me to one, wanting a lot more height. And the only place I could get these crazy Frankenstein boots was Camden Town.
Right.
And I remember the first time I went to Camden Town, and it's probably like what a lot of, people feel when they're going to Disneyland. For me, it was just piercings and robes and goth clothing, which was ripped and torn with safety pins. So that's just what I started dressing like. Black lipstick. That was my first lipstick that I ever bought. Black eyeliner.
Yeah.
My eyes always looked like I had a black eye because that's how much eyeliner I used to put.
Yeah.
And like different piercings. And
I find it interesting to think about how you and I'm sure your sort of need to still organize and beautify and find beauty in that existed alongside this sort of rebellious idea of beauty.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look back now, do you kind of think about how those two parts kind of developed and then met and then separated? And
I feel like still inside I am like goth. My heart is goth. My heart is rebellious. It's all black. But I feel like the ideals of both were very similar. They were both about self-expression.
Yeah.
They were both about having or knowing exactly what I wanted, about being organized in multiple ways. So I think aesthetically, people associate me a lot more with like pastels and florals and pretty things.
Yeah.
But I think even in the goth phase, I still had a very strong aesthetic.
Yeah. You've had a very interesting journey in design and fashion and so many other things. Do you think your idea of beauty changes as you go through different phases of life, or do you think you still look at it the same way?
I definitely think it changes. So for me, my journey has also been a reflection on how I have felt.
Yeah.
So like I said, when I went through that goth phase, everything around me was influenced by that. And even when I came back to Bombay and I launched Koesh, you see Koesh primarily had a lot of edge to it, like black spikes, studs. And this sounds crazy. I'm the eldest of all my siblings, and I've always been a little bit of like this bossy, and also be a little bully, and
really, I can see that.
And always kind of was like the man of the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then it was really strange when I met Vanraj. For me, it changed because it was the first time that I actually started feeling a little girly.
Yeah.
Because he made me feel like a girl. And that's when I think really my feminine side came out.
Yeah.
If you compare, pictures, or if you've known me, it's when I got married and after being married that you started seeing me appreciate things, like the softer things in life.
Yeah.
The softer colors, florals, pretty trinkets.
Yeah.
So that is what changed. But I think my idea of beauty changed over the years. And for me, I don't see beauty just in something that looks beautiful. I feel like something that tells a story. A person who I think is incredibly amazing or has even a crazy side to them.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some kind of spark.
Yeah.
I immediately find
yourself drawn to it.
Yeah.
So just to go back to what you said about femininity, I find it interesting that it's almost like being with him gave you permission to be feminine.
Yeah.
So how do you see femininity? Because even as a designer, you are going through a change, right? In the way you design as well. At your label, you started out with, you started before, but you really hit a peak with the Love Story Lehenga, which is a very romantic idea of femininity. And over the years, that's evolved to now Nephthys, which is a very strong, glamorous idea of femininity. So how, and you work with, different women, you design for all body types. So how do you see femininity? How would you kind of define it? I love that.
I think it's such a strong question. I don't even know if this makes sense, but to me, I think it's different to everyone.
Yeah.
But to me, I think it's what gives a woman the confidence to be herself.
Yeah, that's actually a very nice way to put it. Yeah.
Like you might feel feminine, you might feel your femininity coming out in the most beautiful dress. You might feel it coming out in lingerie. You might feel it coming out in cargo pants.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's very different to each woman. You might feel it being a mother.
Yeah.
You might feel it getting a divorce.
Yeah.
Whatever
makes you feel more of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting, and that's actually very true. So you're someone that travels a lot. Do you find that travel influences your idea of beauty?
To me, my travel is the most important thing. And it's not just... It's also discovery of so many things, whether it's architecture, whether it's... art, architecture, whether it's just mannerisms, or different things that people do just to be respectful or just to be welcoming.
Especially if you're someone that's open to seeking it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of a mindset.
Yeah.
That, like, I noticed that a lot of what you observe are also tiny daily details that not everyone may notice.
Yeah.
Like you take pictures of a tray on which coffee was served, or, a coaster in a restaurant, or just a wall.
But my idea of beauty has changed, and it just struck me that few years ago, the picture would be more of, coffee served on a tray, really perfect.
Yeah.
But like today, I feel, and one of my last pictures that I've taken is actually coffee that has spilled.
Right.
And just the pattern that has formed.
Yeah.
And I remember not picking up my phone at that cafe to take a picture of the setting, but the second this spilled, it was so beautiful with the sunlight, and I have the picture somewhere. I can pull it out for you.
Yeah.
That was something I found beautiful. So definitely my idea of beauty has changed.
And it's also maybe gone from wanting to seek and create perfection to embracing some of that mess and that imperfection.
Yeah.
Right? For you, what was that start, apart from shaving your mustache? What was that starting point, and how has your skincare routine grown, changed, stayed the same?
So you're not going to believe me, but I only got into my routine a year and a half ago.
Really?
Yeah. I only got into my routine a year and a half ago. And he will kill me. But it was probably because of Vanraj.
Really?
Yeah. And all the little serums and things he had. For the longest time, I've just been face wash, exfoliator, moisturizer. Very bad with my sunscreen. Horribly bad with my
sunscreen. And you
sunscreen.
dive and you spend a lot of time outdoors.
So, and I was always like, that what's the worst that can happen with sun? I mean, I've grown up with like my grandmother telling me that you must go and sit out
in the sun. Which is a very Indian belief.
Yeah. And my mother has always told me that, you need to put sunscreen. I think the rebellious side of me was just like, nothing's going to happen to me. And I did not use sunscreen.
At all?
At all.
Oh, God.
And a year and a half ago, I think I really saw that Raj's skin start to transform. And luckily, I've never had bad skin, but I have had a little bit of scarring from acne marks, growing up.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, let me get my act together.
Yeah.
And I did. And the more things I started using, but when I started using certain things and using them very smart, and of course I did a lot of research because, when I get into something, I go a little crazy. So I actually sat down and like made notes of what was for what and saw what will work on me. And I completely saw my skin transform.
Yeah.
But I also have to say that the complete change for me happened when I started doing Revive.
Right.
Because that's when I saw that I was no longer getting scarring, spotting, pimples.
Yeah.
And that was also one of the biggest factors that kind of pushed me to, the inner glow was coming, but the outer...
So Revive being the IV drips that you were getting.
The Vital Glow.
The Vital Glow. Okay.
And it was great because, of course, starting out, we were also not the guinea pigs, but,
trying it out.
Just trying everything out. And that kind of fully clicked. But today I have like an 18-step routine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can we get into that in as much detail as you are comfortable talking about? And I know, just to give this context, I know that you were in Korea recently and you kind of, I think Korean skincare has taken over the whole world. Yeah. And was that sort of where your 18 steps started?
No.
Or was it before?
It actually started much before. Korea, I went mainly for the food. And then I just, of course, fell in love with the skincare. But so I have an Excel sheet with my
of course you do.
with my routine, and there's a different routine, like 3 days of the week. Monday to Wednesday is one routine, AM and PM separate, and then Thursday to Friday is a different routine, and then Sunday is a different routine.
Right.
So basically what it consists of, if you want the details.
Yes, please, everyone would want to know.
Okay. So I wake up and what I love doing is an ice bath for the face or an ice roller.
Yeah.
And I feel it really helps me with puffiness because I have major allergies. So I wake up sneezing and my eyes are always puffy. And then post that I use I love the Face Shop Rice Water foaming cleanser.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of my go-to, the oil and the cleanser.
Yeah. And the cleanser is there's something calming about it. I don't know how to explain, but I've not experienced that in a foaming, Then I use the Laneige cream skin toner.
Right.
And then
Trisha is looking at her Excel sheet as she says all of this, and it's incredibly organized.
Then I use vitamin C from Goodall Green. It's amazing. It's a tangerine-based vitamin C. Yeah. And then Centella, the Madagascar Centella Ampule, followed by snail mucin, which I love. And then ordinary peptides. Post that, I do my moisturizer, which is Dr. Jart.
Yeah.
This Kahi Anti-Wrinkle Balm. It's just a hydration balm. It's amazing. It's the Spiral Korean product. And Dr. Jart SPF and lip balm.
Yeah.
For the rest of the week, instead of... I just avoid the Centella Ampule.
Right.
I just keep that for 3 days in the week. And then my PM routine is my oil cleansing, which I love.
Yeah.
And Banyo. It's really, really changed my skin and mainly all, my whiteheads and blackheads on my nose.
And I also think oil cleansing in Indian cities, it's the best thing you can do. Because we do, unfortunately, live in very polluted cities. And I think oil cleansing is the key. And not using like coconut oil or something, but an actually good oil cleanser.
And I think it's amazing even, whenever you use makeup, because it's so gentle on the skin compared to those old school makeup removers. And now thinking about how we used to use them, the alcohol-based ones. Oil cleansing, amazing. Followed by the Manio foaming cleanser. Then one of my most game-changing products that I have ever used is the Medicure 4 pad.
Right.
And it's literally just this tub.
Yeah.
And they have pre-soaked pads, which is basically a toner.
Yeah. And you store it in the fridge?
No. You keep it. It's really nice. It has this little tweezer to pull out each pad. And it is brilliant what it does for your pores.
Really?
Yeah. It almost eliminates pores on your face. So you can use it as, you can even use it as a face pack.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can just take 3
like a sheet mask.
Yeah. Like a sheet mask. And put it on and 20 minutes later, wipe it off.
Yeah.
And it's been brilliant. And then after that, half the week, it's niacinamide, snail mucin, multipeptides, and retinol.
Right.
So when I started off, I did the retinol sandwich method, which was moisturizer, retinol,
and another
moisturizer again. And then followed by my normal Kahi eye balm. And for the rest of the week, I actually use this thing called Angel's Liquid.
Okay.
Which is amazing, and it has multiple things in it, and it's mostly a glutathione product.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, I use glycolic acid toner.
Got it.
When I do that, I just stick to moisturizer.
And just let your skin breathe.
Yeah, and let my skin breathe. And on Sunday during the day, if I'm at home and if I don't, have to reorganize the whole house, right?
Because that's what you do every Sunday.
Every Sunday. Then I do a really nice collagen face mask.
Nice.
And leave that on. It gets completely absorbed.
And just let your skin be. And so I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And do you find that now that you have a ritual, do you find that it's a, sort of something that's something you enjoy doing?
It's therapeutic.
It is, isn't it?
People look at this, whoever I've had discussions with, and they're like, you're freaking crazy. Like, who the hell has time for this? But it's your time.
Yes.
And I've set up, I taken my own bathroom now, which I love, and I've set it up, and everything's on this beautiful, like a lazy Susan, carousel thing. And it's just amazing. You put on, I have a friend who sends me this amazing meditation in the morning. Just these sounds.
Yeah.
Or you put on a show. If you've had a really bad night, I put on the worst reality show
Mine is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Okay.
I cannot live without those women.
Okay, so I put on Jersey Shore.
God,
and Snooki and all that nonsense. And it just lifts me up. And I do my routine.
Yeah.
During that time, and it's my favorite part of my day.
But when do you think you feel beautiful?
Honestly, I feel really beautiful when I feel like I've accomplished something or I've done something really cool. So I think beauty and confidence kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Feeling beautiful is something that I don't think about.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I've always thought of myself as a guy, growing up.
When it comes to makeup, what is it sort of your philosophy, your routine? You're not someone that turns to makeup every day.
No. I love makeup.
Yeah.
And at one point when I was studying in LA, I used to watch these YouTube videos and I forgot what these girls were called. I think it was Lauren. One was Ashley. These two sisters who were makeup bloggers and they were huge on YouTube. And You're going to laugh. The thing that drew me to makeup, my whole life, it would just be eyeliner. Like, I would never wear foundation. And foundation
and your black lipstick.
Yeah. But even after that in college, it would just be eyeliner and that Bobbi Brown, that little brick, you know?
Yeah.
Which I love. But no foundation, no concealer, none of it.
Yeah.
But when I started watching those YouTube videos, you know what they used to do? They used to do like makeup room tour and makeup organization video.
So there's the organization again.
And they would open those drawers.
Yeah.
And you would see like eyeshadows. I remember that time the MAC pigment spots.
Yes.
Were really big, you know?
Yeah.
And they would have them in every color. NYX, NYX, that brand had...
Which was very big at the time.
Yeah, had like every color lipstick. And it was like my Caran d'Ache drawers. Because I had that with art supplies. Right? Color pencils, markers. And seeing that, I was just like so blown away. And it's something I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to use it, but I was so fascinated.
But it was the beauty of it and the organization and the colors and the art aspect of it, actually.
And I remember going to Ulta Beauty the next day and just picking up like 200 lip glosses. And my friends were like, what's going on with you? Like you're having a midlife crisis.
In your 20s.
In my 20s. And then I picked up eyeshadows and eye glitters and Makeup Forever. I remember being obsessed with their store. They had just opened a new store in Melrose.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when I have all these things, I hate things going to waste.
Yeah.
So I would tell my friends, can I come on, do your makeup? So at one point...
So you became a makeup artist.
At one point I was doing makeup for like their shoots. I was doing makeup for like college stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually I started using different products.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in formulas. I'm really interested in like how something feels, like discovering, even though I don't use a lot of like lipsticks, but discovering how something lasts so it doesn't crease. I think my interest is in that.
Yeah.
So that's when I've just started collecting, playing. And honestly, going to Korea changed everything for me.
Did it?
Yeah. Because someone had mentioned, actually friends had mentioned initially, can you get me, they're known for their lip products.
Yeah.
Can you get me something? I have another friend I actually have a few friends who own makeup brands. So it would be nice to get them viral, the viral products as gifts and for them to test things out. And I remember just testing it on my hand.
Yeah.
And seeing the consistency, and I was blown away.
Really?
Yeah, I was just blown away. So this time when I went to Korea, for the first time, I actually picked up like literally an entire bag of
things you want to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makeup.
Yeah. But you have fun with makeup. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
It's like it's again the designer in you. It's the color. It's the playing with things and transforming something. It's not so much, I think for many women, it can be a daily armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, it's more, let's have fun with it.
Yeah. For me, it's like, what am I going to do? And for me, it's mainly my eyes.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot more anywhere else, but I always do a crazy smoky eye, and I'm really, really good with my own makeup, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of played with it and figured out what works for you.
Yeah.
What do you find beautiful in other women?
Honestly, their personality.
Yeah.
To begin with. But then I really love classic.
Okay.
I think...
So who would be an example as a muse or someone in your own life or...
Nargis. That.
Yes.
Yeah. There was some unconventional beauty about her,
She didn't have a perfect face.
Yeah, she didn't have a perfect face.
Yeah.
And then, I just saw a picture of hers recently because someone had sent it. And I don't know, there's something about that woman that I find really, really beautiful.
You're also someone that collects objects.
Yes.
And do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's a very interesting part of who you are, is your need to collect objects from different places and your curiosity about that.
I love things that have a story.
Yeah.
It's just something that fascinates me, something that has a history, something that has been part of something. Having that, I appreciate design. I appreciate how things are made. Mostly what I do when I travel is, for example, for my brand, I pick up things that I find fascinating. They could be from the road, they could be from a mall, they could be from a designer store. Yeah. Just things that are beautifully made and constructed. Yeah. And I bring them back and we take them apart.
Right.
And we see how they're made. And I always have this, I always taunt my master saying, he'll see me, he'll be like, "Vapas suitcase aaya," and I'm like, I'm shopping more for you. I'm not shopping for myself. So we really study things. But I don't know, my need of collecting objects, I think I've always been like that. I mean, my family always calls me a hoarder. Yeah. Whenever anyone used to throw, things out or get rid of things like their clothes or their jewelry or their shoes or... I would always be like, but show me first, and I would collect it. And I have things that people have probably let go of like 20, 25 years ago. Yeah, like this jacket. I will show it to you. This beautiful mirror jacket that my aunt probably wore for some function, and then she didn't want it anymore. And I was 12.
Yeah, and you took it from...
I took it. I still have it. And
really?
Yeah, today I don't even know. Like, you will never find something like that again. Yeah. So I appreciate beauty. I appreciate a story. And I really appreciate things that are well made. Yeah. Yeah.
You work with a lot of young women. You have a lot of women coming through your store and your atelier, and you are, also someone who champions women in every way in your life, in your work. So what would you tell young women today? I know it's a very sort of cheesy, cliched question, but as someone who works so much with them and for them, what would you tell them?
I would just say to like go with their gut and follow their heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. A lot of people it's different for women in this society.
Yeah.
A lot of women feel like they have to conform to what's right, what's not right, what's expected of them. And I always think it's important to be respectful, but I don't think you need to apologize for who you are.
Yeah. It again goes back to everything you said.
Yeah.
It's a woman who has a story to tell, who's confident, who's unapologetic.
Yeah.
And that is a great model to follow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krisha. Thank you for listening to this episode of Skin Deep. I hope you enjoyed it. If this conversation resonated with you, follow along on Spotify, come visit us on Instagram at AishLife, and stay in touch. We appreciate you. Take care.